I got a Sony SLV555 shipped in for repair. This is the first of the Sony VHS machines. They actually released two of them at the same time, the 555 and the 575. The difference being the 575 had flying erase heads and had the ability to do insert editing, which the 555 did not. Other than that, they're identical. These were workhorses. This one's got several problems. Let's get started. Got a Sony SLV555 in for repair. Before I even plug this one in, we're going to pop it apart. Do some preliminary inspections. A couple of real common problems on these are guideposts that freeze up. So we're going to check that first. Other common problems on these, the blue gear, of course, the brakes, and power supply issues. So want to see first, is there anything obvious before I apply power to it. 4 screws later, cover pops off. Let's see what kind of a mess this one is. Blue gear doesn't appear to be broken, and the P6 guide is not frozen. Okay, let's power it up and see what it does. I have no power. Power supply problem on this one, more than likely. Nothing like, oh, wait a minute, do I have power? I do have power. It's just the display is really dim because it's so bright in here. Yeah, the auto tracking light is lighting up, so it does have power. The power supply is working. Let's plug it into a TV and see if we get a picture. These Sonys had 2 sets of outputs, line out and monitor out. The difference between the two of them is the monitor out had the on-screen display and the line out did not. So line out was more for people that were going to use this as a playback deck and make a recording onto another tape, and they didn't want the on-screen graphics showing through. Let's try loading a tape. Ah, drum motor not rotating. Well, it's not supposed to do that. I think got a problem. Yeah, so we got no drum power. Interesting. Let's dig into this and see why there's no drum power. Servo board is over here. Look at this. Look at this mess here on the servo board. Let's pop the servo board open and see what the fault is. Remove a couple screws, and the board will flip out of the way. There's a clip on the side here, and it should pop open. The board flips up, so we can examine the board. I see some damage on the board, so it might be leaking capacitors or moisture's gotten onto it. Looking at this set, it's got another problem as well. If we look at this, the guide is now fallen out. This guide's fallen off. It's got to be reattached. So I got to pull the bottom off of it to put the guide back on and glue it in place because it's fallen off the guide post. It's fallen off the control linkage. Hopefully the blue gear is not broken, but we'll cross that bridge when I get the bottom off now. This board's been worked on. You can see someone's retouched a bunch of the solder, and there's been some diodes added to the photo detectors. Blue gear is not broken on this one. It's not even a blue gear on this one. It's a white gear. Just unplug the connectors. Get the little circuit board out of the way. You see, this is the gear that normally breaks. It's normally blue in color, but this one's white. This is the guide that's fallen off right here. So I got to get the guide back in place, and we'll put some silly glue on there to glue it in place. In other words, crazy glue. I'm going to take the going to take the cut washer off here so I can drop the pin down. Actually, I can turn this by hand too. Push the guide up a bit out of the way. So make it a little bit easier to get at, to work on. I'm going to take this cut washer off so I can take the guide pin and put it back in. I put the post back onto the base. There we go. There's the pin that fell out of the bottom. That goes in through here. And we're going to have to glue it back in place. It goes right in through here. Looks like somebody's already put glue on there at some point. Didn't hold now, did it? There. Now we'll reset that pin. I'm going to put some glue on down the hole first and then reset the pin, get in place so that it actually has some glue on the pin. So I'll put some glue in there, and then I'll take the pin and I'll shove the pin in from the bottom and bring it right up to the top here. So that should hopefully hold that in place for the foreseeable future. Bring the guide in again from the bottom. Oops. What am I doing? Try putting it in the right place. There. Cut washer is back on. Okay, guide is back together. Looks like somebody's been soldering on here. Somebody's been working on this because this has all been resoldered. So in other words, maybe someone didn't know what they were doing and they tried to fix this thing. all different screws as well. I'm sure some of these are too long. But every screw that's in here is the wrong, well, some of them are the right ones, but some of them are definitely the wrong screws. I can just tell by the shape of them. Like this one, for example, that's got the washer on it, I believe is the one that's supposed to hold the gear. Has that got a washer on? Oh, it does, okay. So if we want to see if our drum drive IC is working, first of all, we can measure to make sure it's getting power. So the power supply for that is this rail here, 12 volts. So we know the power supply is working. If I give it the wet finger trick, I should be able to get this thing to rotate. There we go. So wet finger, what that does is that proves that the drive IC is working. It's generating the 3 phases and the motor is spinning. So now we know that the circuit down here is good. First thing first, let's clean this board. So I have to think it's got to be a power supply problem on this set. These power supplies were so problematic on these Sonys, and looking at this one's never been changed because these are 85 degree, look like 85 degree Rubicon caps, and I bet you there's a voltage that's missing. Got a couple high temp caps in here, but most of them are not. If you look at the power supply from my old machine, even it has different. This is from my machine, which also doesn't work in this one, by the way. But it may have a problem too, because this is, these are both very old units. But at least this one here had high temp caps. You can see from still got the original paint on it. But this is the original one here. Let's start out by just checking these caps and see whether they are ESR is high. Looking at the circuit board, these actually look like they have been changed. Look at the solder on here. Somebody's changed these, but it looks like they're glued down, but maybe not. Maybe not. And that could explain why this thing's acting the way it is. I think we might be missing a voltage. So check some fuse resistors on this thing. Unfortunately, I don't have a schematic. I wish I did. It would make life so much easier, but I don't have a manual for this thing. Oh yeah, look at this bugger. Look at it. Yeah, this one's shot. 330 at 10. That's probably the one that's causing all the trouble. I've got the power supply back in with the new capacitor that I replaced for the one that was leaking like crazy. Still not working, and I'm convinced I'm missing a voltage somewhere. There's some regulators on this one. I think this is a 9-volt regulator down here. What is this one? This is a 7809, so this is a 9-volt regulator. So let's just check and see whether this 9-volt regulator is working. Power is on. Unit has got power to it. Okay, what do we got here? Just trying to get my head out of the way so you guys can see what I'm doing. I got 12 volts going in on one pin, the next one will be ground, and that should be the 9-volt output, and I got 0.6 volts. I believe that 7809 is shot. So let's remove it. Now the question is, do I have one? Yes, I do have one actually, because I've got an identical machine I can steal one out of. Bonus! 7809 regulator right there. Let me go and get one from my parts donor, and we'll swap that out. And I bet that'll make this thing work. So I grabbed the entire board, complete with the wiring harness. I don't even feel like unsoldering this one. I'll just pop the new one in, plug it in, and that hopefully is going to fix this one. I can't see it being anything else. Gotta cut this wire tie here. And that plugs in right there on this one. Plug the new one in. Okay, hit the power button. I have drum spinning. What do you bet it plays? Let's plug it in and see. I'm pretty confident it's not going to eat, so I'll put in my new test tape. Well, it's playing. Not playing well. Looks like we have a bit of an alignment problem on this one. Take a look at the picture. But playing it is, and we're going to make this work properly. Let me get the scope on this thing. We'll check the alignment and set up the guides. Yeah, I'm almost there with the alignment. Okay, and the other guide here. Where's this one? There we go. And it's playing hi-fi sound. And it's back working. That was actually a tough one. I admit that one was a bit of a challenge. The only parts that were replaced on this was that regulator, which I took to my donor machine, and the a capacitor, actually two caps in the power supply, because there was one that was an 85 degree cap that somebody had changed in the past, and then there was that one red cap that was bad. So this is the power supply that's out of my machine. It's got the original caps in it. See, the original one was a red cap here, and this red cap here. Those are going to be definitely bad. That's why this power supply probably didn't work. When I put the power supply from my machine in to see if it would work, it wouldn't even light up the clock display. So it's got bad caps in here. So that one, and probably the blue one here is also bad. Those are usually the ones that go bad. What had been changed on this one before, somebody had changed a couple of the caps. They had put in, where was it? They had put this one in. It still had the red cap in. That was all leaking, as you can see. That was in there. That was bad. Somebody had put that in place of one of the original red ones, which one of the original red ones would have been 105 degree. Yeah, you see, 105. Somebody put an 85 in there. And there was also, well, the other one was already changed. The other blue one was already a brown cap, so it would have been a high temperature. So somebody rebuilt this power supply at some point, and they put a wrong cap in it. So it's now been replaced. I guess I could put this one back in, but it probably is okay. But it's not the right type. So I'm leaving the new one in, the two new caps in there, and of course the new regulator. That's all that I had to do to this. And oh, and glue that guide. It fell apart back together. Glued that back together and did an alignment on the tape path. Initially, I was a bit concerned about that crap that was on the board that I cleaned off, but it was not capacitor gunk. I think it was just condensation and maybe some mold. But as you can see, it's all cleaned off now. But that wasn't the issue anyway. The issue was loss of 9 volts. Even the display is working better. That would have been one of those caps. It would have been that red cap that was causing that. The red cap that was all leaking, that was in the negative supply. The negative, like, I think it's 27 volts or so. This cap here. That's in the negative supply. The negative supply is used for the vacuum fluorescent display. So now the fluorescent display looks like $1 million. Very nice. Anyway, as I say, this machine's all done. And I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This one was, I say, a little bit of a challenge because it had a couple of different problems. It had a recap, a couple failed caps in the power supply, and had a bad regulator, and it had a guide that fell apart. So when you see one of these units that the drum doesn't start, when you put the tape in and it goes into fast forward and the drum doesn't start, look for the 9-volt regulator. That's the cause of the fault. I'm going to put some lubricant on this post before I send it out. That's a real common problem on these units is the P6 guide. The grease dries up on this guide here. It's okay on this one. It's not sticking, so it's good. It's okay. And the grease on here dries up, and then it causes this to freeze and break the pinch roller, or break the pinch arm. So you got to lubricate that. We'll do that on this one. So to take it off, just remove the top. Just pull these two little catches out and lift it off. Oh, this has already been lubricated. Somebody lubricated this with the green, but they didn't put anything on the post here. The post is dry. So we'll just put some Molly Coat into there to lubricate. The Sony grease was green, so that was changed at one point, but whoever did it did not bother to lubricate the rest of this. And it needs it. There, that should keep this thing going for years. Common parts that break on these are, well, the pinch arm breaks, and this white plastic gear breaks, and the blue gear breaks, and this one's a white gear on this one. they broke too. They were replaced with the blue gear. The blue gear broke as well. Anyway, this thing's working good. As I say, I put the tape in and it tracks up immediately, as you can see. We'll eject it. And load the tape. Bam! Tracks up instantly. Tracking is perfect on this machine. It's ready to go back to its owner over in Vancouver Island. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one real soon. Bye for now.